Every paycheck was already gone before it arrived. Marcus didn't know that yet. Not really. He had the number somewhere in the back of his mind, soft and approximate, the way you carry something you don't want to look at directly. He knew things were tight. He knew the cards had balances. He knew the minimum payments went out every month like clockwork. What he didn't know was the total. He had never let himself add it all up at once. From the outside, Marcus looked like someone who had quietly figured life out. 29 years old. Clean black car. Pressed shirts. He always picked up the tab when friends went out. Never hesitated. Never suggested splitting it. He was the kind of person other people pointed to without realizing they were doing it, the guy who just seemed stable. But stability was the performance. The debt was the reality. And the debt had been growing for 6 years. He grew up watching his father drive the same car for 11 years. His mother clipped coupons and felt genuinely proud about it. They weren't poor. They were careful. And somewhere between watching that and becoming an adult, Marcus built a quiet belief that careful meant small. That frugality was something you did when you had no other options. He wanted to feel like he had options. So when the first real paycheck came at 23, the spending came with it. Not recklessly. Reasonably. A better apartment. Work clothes that actually fit. Dinners where he picked up the tab because it felt good to be the person who could. The first credit card arrived 6 months in. Low limit. He paid it off the next month. Easy. Then the bank raised the limit automatically. He didn't ask for it. It just happened. And Marcus thought, I won't use this irresponsibly. It's just there in case something comes up. Something always came up. That should have been the warning. It wasn't. By 25, he had 2 cards. Both carrying balances. Both quietly collecting interest every month like a meter running in a parked car. His combined minimum payments were just over $300. After rent, the car, utilities, food, and insurance, $300 was the difference between a tight month and a survivable one. There was nothing left over. No buffer. No savings. No room for anything unexpected. His raise that year was absorbed in weeks. Not by one thing. By everything. By the way spending expands to meet available income before you notice it moving. He celebrated the raise with a dinner, picked up the tab, and put it on a card. He was making more money. He was no closer to stable. That should have been the moment he stopped and looked at everything clearly. Instead, he got better at not looking. A third card came at 26. A store card, opened for furniture. He had seen an apartment online, one of those clean, put-together spaces that made him feel behind just by looking at it. A couch. A coffee table. Wall art. A better lamp. He told himself it was a one-time thing. The store card became a habit. A fourth card followed when the third ran out of room. 4 cards. 5 due dates. For different apps he checked in isolation, never together, because together was the version he couldn't afford to see. He never missed a payment. He held on to that. His credit score held. No collection calls. No late notices. So he told himself he was managing it. He had just stretched the definition of managing until it barely meant anything. At 27, he financed a car upgrade. The monthly payment seemed reasonable on its own. Everything seemed reasonable on its own. That was the trick. Isolation made each decision look small. It was only together that they became something he couldn't carry. He wasn't buying things anymore. He was buying time. Time before he had to see the full number. Time before the performance became something he couldn't maintain. Every purchase gave him relief first. Then a low, quiet pressure that arrived a few days later and never fully left. He started developing habits to protect himself from the total. He stopped opening certain bank emails. He checked his balance just long enough to confirm a payment had cleared, then closed the app before the number could settle in his chest. He kept a mental estimate of what he owed, and that estimate was always softer than reality, not because he was lying to himself exactly, but because he had stopped correcting it when it drifted. One month he noticed an interest charge larger than expected. He called the bank. A representative explained it calmly. How balances compound. How minimum payments cover mostly interest and barely touch principal. How a balance carried long enough begins to feed itself. Marcus sat on his nice couch in his nice apartment and listened and looked at the wall. He felt something close to shame. Not because the representative judged him. The voice was completely neutral. But because hearing it said out loud made it real in a way that years of careful avoidance never had. He thanked them. He hung up. He ordered food. Put it on a card. Turned something on to watch. And the feeling faded back into the background, where he had learned to keep everything that scared him. That was the moment. That was the exact moment when everything could have changed. Instead, he became better at living in the spaces between the numbers. His friends still saw someone thriving. One of them said it directly. "You always seem so relaxed about money. I wish I had your relationship with it." Marcus laughed. He changed the subject. But the background pressure never left. It was there on Sunday nights. There in the half-second before he opened a banking app. There in the quiet of his apartment when there was nothing to distract him from the hum of it. And that was only the part he could feel. The part he couldn't feel was still growing. The car repair came at $28. A few $100s. Not catastrophic. But his checking account had nothing available. The paycheck was still 5 days out. The repair needed to happen now. He put it on a card. And something shifted. Not loudly. Just a quiet internal recognition that something had changed, that a line had been crossed, even if he couldn't name exactly where the line was. He drove home. He went to work the next morning. He kept moving. But he had stopped believing his own story. Over the next few months, minimum payments began creeping up as balances crossed certain thresholds. One card sent a fee notice because a payment had processed 2 days late during a week his account had dropped too low to cover it automatically. He was losing ground. Not in one dramatic moment. Just steadily, the way you lose ground when every paycheck arrives already fully claimed and there is nothing left to correct with. Then came the Tuesday in March. He was at his desk when the notification came through. Rent due in 3 days. Paycheck in 8. The gap was 5 days wide and contained nothing. He opened the banking app. $34. He stared at it. He made a real salary. He had been employed for 6 years. He had a car, an apartment, a closet full of clothes that made him look like someone who had it together. $34. He checked the first card. Then the second. Then the personal loan he had taken out 2 years earlier to consolidate 2 of the cards, which had helped briefly before he filled the cards back up again. Then the third card. Then the fourth. He let the numbers sit on the screen without closing the app. Without softening them. Without moving to something else. $28,400. He didn't move for a long time. 6 years. 4 cards. 1 loan. Hundreds of small reasonable decisions. Dozens of dinners. A car upgrade. A furnished apartment. A closet full of pressed shirts. And $28,000 sitting behind all of it, invisible until now, shaping every month of his life without ever being seen clearly. He thought about what he had to show for it. A rental he didn't own. A car he was still paying off. Objects. Moments. The feeling of looking like someone who had arrived. He thought about what he didn't have. An emergency fund. any savings at all. Any distance between himself and the next thing that could go wrong. One real disruption. That was all it would take. One job loss, one health issue, one unexpected bill that hit at the wrong moment. He was one real disruption away from something he could not absorb. And he had built that situation himself, one small, reasonable feeling decision at a time, across 6 years of not looking at the full number. He transferred the rent from a card. He paid it. He went to work the next morning. He told no one. But that night he called his parents. Not for money. He didn't ask for anything. He just needed something familiar. His mother asked how he was doing and he said fine, the way he always had, automatically, before he stopped himself. He said, actually, not that great. The pause that followed was just his mother listening. And that pause, that simple quiet space of being heard without having to perform, broke something open that had been locked for a long time. He didn't tell her everything. But he told her enough. She said, "We can help you think through this." 8 words. That was all. But they were the first honest words anyone had exchanged with Marcus about money in 6 years, and they landed somewhere deep. The months that followed were slow and unglamorous. No windfall. No rescue. No single moment of transformation. Just the difficult, unremarkable work of honesty. He built a budget for the first time. A real one. Written down. Looked at every week, even when looking at it felt like pressing on a bruise. He stopped using the cards. Cut spending in ways that felt humbling. Cooked at home. Skipped the kinds of dinners he used to organize and pay for. He started putting more than the minimum toward the highest interest balance, and he watched it move, slowly, in a direction it had never moved before. He told one friend the truth. The friend was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I always thought you had it together." "I've been struggling too. I just assumed I was the only one." Marcus didn't say anything right away. That one sentence rearranged something in him. Because the image he had spent 6 years and $28,000 maintaining was not even real to the people he was maintaining it for. They were all carrying their own version of the same weight. Everyone performing. Everyone assuming they were the only one behind the mask. By 31, the debt was smaller. Not gone. But real progress had been made. His emergency fund reached $1,000. It was not a large number. But it represented something that had never existed before in his adult life. Space. A small gap between what happened and what he could survive. He still dressed well. He still drove a car. But the choices felt like choices now. Not reflexes. Not performances. He knew what things cost. He knew why he was spending. He knew what he was building toward instead of just running from. Most people don't collapse in public. They collapse quietly, invisibly, one minimum payment at a time, while the image stays perfectly intact. The dangerous thing about debt is not the number. It is how long the number can grow in the dark before you are willing to turn on the light. Marcus looked successful for 6 years while falling further behind every single month. He had the car. He had the apartment. He had the tab. What he didn't have was a single dollar that was actually his. And the most expensive thing he ever purchased was not furniture, not a car, not a single dinner. It was the years he spent buying the appearance of a life he had never actually built.